let's talk about women in Japan.
Ooh, that's
Oh,
spicy.
it can be spicy. Stardom gave out a press release, and fans are
Well, I can
begging
go
for
ahead and
something that I don't think helps. But go ahead. You want to read the press release, Mr. Raccoon?
yeah, I'll go ahead. Stardom basically was having such an issue with perverts taking creep shots of their wrestlers and then posting them online where it's just done to be a pervert. Like they're trying to get the most pervy angles they can. Stardom had to actually issue a fucking statement saying, hey, stop doing this. So I'll go ahead, I'll read it off. Recently, there have been reports of photos taken of our players, such as persistently taken pictures of the lower body of our players being posted on social media or on the web for sexual purposes. Above all, taking, posting, and publishing such photos is an act of sexual harassment that undermines the dignity of the athletes who concentrate and devote themselves to the game, family members, and others involved. Posting on SNS or the web that damages the honor and integrity of a player may constitute defamation of the player. Also, voyeurism may be punished under the Nuisance Prevention Ordinance. And it continues on, but again, it's auto translated, so it's not perfect. But the problem is that they have a huge amount of perverts just going to Stardom events just to take creep shots of the women.
And it reminds me of Quietgate. I've made a bunch of videos on Quietgate. If you don't know what that is, one foreigner acted like an asshole, so they ran it like a strip club, and they called it Quietgate, and a lot of the women hated it. I don't understand. Like, me and the raccoon, we find women attractive. I don't understand doing this to female athletes or doing this to pro wrestlers when there's a huge industry that solves that problem.
Yeah.
You know, that, like, if it was like, hey, this is my industry, it is, corn time, as they would say, trying to tickle the balls of YouTube here and not get in trouble. But there is an industry for the perverts. And
Absolutely.
there is a fan base that it's a small fan base, because I feel that women's wrestling, in my opinion, right now, and you could say women's sports, is maybe 10% actually watching the sport and appreciate the athletes. The other half perverts, and the other half white knights. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like people that actually watch women's wrestling enjoy women's wrestling, because to me, yeah, okay, they are beautiful women, but I despise when someone says, I like this new woman. Is she good? I don't know. She's hot. It's like, there is an industry for that.
Yeah.
There is an industry for that, and we don't want to stop that industry. I just don't understand why you have to ruin it. And I think the white knights and the perverts are ruining it for the athletes.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that. It's one thing to say, "Oh, hey, these are beautiful women." That's one thing. But when you're taking creepy, just like catching them like when they're getting pinned or whatever, trying to get the creepiest shot you can and post it online to overly sexualize them, that's just shitty. Because honestly, you're not even thinking about the how that could impact the wrestler themselves. You're just showing total and blatant disrespect to the wrestler for your own gratification. It's garbage behavior, and people should be ashamed of it. They do it to the U.S. wrestlers too. They do it to all the women's wrestlers, and it's a really shitty behavior.
And not only that, but like, I've worked camera, I have worked cameramen, and you could just have a conversation with the women if you're a professional. Like, some women want to show off their stuff, and some women want to just focus on talent. You can have that conversation, but just to go to these events to take these pictures, there's an industry for that. There is literally an industry for that, and those voices are loud and they're ruining it. And it just sucks, because you have the perverts, and then you also have the people that demand women's wrestling but like don't support it. Like, an example, there has to be an IWGP women's title. Why? Oh, there has to be a Noah's women title. Why? You got TJPW, you got you got Stardom, you got tons of women's wrestling out there. Why does it have to be there? And not only that, but Stardom sold out at Wrestle Kingdom before the guys did, as far as merch goes. It's like, these women are popular at what they do. There is, And am I a bad guy for saying, "Hey, perverts, there is an industry for that"? You know what I mean? I don't
No,
think I'm, I
no,
don't think I'm wrong for that. There is an
no. I'm
industry for
with
that.
you.
I just don't think everything doesn't need to be that way. You know?
And and to
And
add to that, how much worse is it that this isn't just any company saying this? This is Stardom, the cream of the crop for women's wrestling. If you ask anyone who watches women's wrestling, they'll tell you, at least in my opinion, Stardom number one. The closest that's ever been to number two, I would say, is probably TNA Knockouts division comes close as to competing at a number two, but no one touches Stardom in terms of just overall raw quality of women's wrestling, and they're having to put out this statement.
yeah, I mean, I do say TJPW has a couple sleepers, but
Yeah, they are really
I've
good.
had this conversation. This is an awkward conversation, a little bit off topic. I was like, oh, TJPW. I said, like, the top 6 women at TJPW can hang in Stardom. That was the statement. And he goes, nah, you're an idiot. And I was like, have you ever seen TJPW? No. And then he goes on, and then later there's like ... by his name. I'm like, oh, I guess this conversation's over. He's like, I've never actually seen Stardom either.
Oh Jesus!
And I was like, why?
That feels
Why
like,
are we having a
that feels like
conversation here? But
that's how
yeah.
most wrestling fans for women's wrestling seem to be. That they haven't actually watched as much as they claim.
Well, yeah, and it's the same thing. Like, oh, women rest of the division should be in Noah. Cool. To watch Noah legally, you literally have to skip over TJPW. To watch Noah legally. And here's the thing. You want there to be an IWGP champ. Why ain't there women's wrestling all together? Why ain't there women's wrestling at Forbidden Door? Like, they have their division. Watch them and their company. Because here's the thing. You're a raccoon in this scenario. I said, hey, there's a company with nothing but raccoons and you will fucking dominate the Raccoon Wrestling Federation. Or you'll be a mid-carder stuck with a bunch of raptors. Which one are you choosing?
Dominate the Raccoon Company.
And not only that, but like, you'd get paid more than it's just, to me, it's just silly. To me, it's just silly.
I mean, you can see it. Look at where Sasha Banks / Mercedes Moné is. She went there for a reason.
Yep.
They're
And
the best.
so here's the thing, guys. I'm not saying don't be a pervert. I'm not that guy. I'm just saying there's an industry for that. Like, there's a time where you can go and release those stresses, and then there's a time that you don't release those stresses. I think that's the most professional way of saying it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best way to put it is, it's okay to appreciate the female form, but don't hypersexualize these women and force them to endure you making sexual comments or putting them into uncomfortable positions. Don't do that. Admire them silently if you want to, but don't go out there and be a shithead and make their day shittier. Don't make them afraid to wrestle in front of you because they don't know what you're going to do with a camera.
And Stardom has had a problem in the past, and it just sucks because what you're going to do, and this is what happened at Quiet Gate, for people that just love women's pro wrestling, you're going to chase them away. Stardom was in a lot of trouble after Quiet Gate, and they could be getting a lot of trouble here. Hopefully, like a little warning, like, hey, don't do this, might be enough. You know what I mean? Hopefully it's enough.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I agree.
Sticking in Japan,